Some mothers don't control with anger. They don't control with fear. They control with guilt. And the most terrifying part? Most children never realize it's happening. They grow up thinking it was love. Guilt is supposed to be a compass. It tells you when you've done something wrong. But in the wrong hands, guilt becomes a leash. And some mothers learn that if they can make their child feel guilty enough, they never have to force obedience. The child does it willingly. That's what makes it so powerful. You don't even realize you're carrying it because you've been wearing it since childhood. The first sign is the sacrifice weapon. Every time you asked for something, she reminded you of everything she gave up. Her dreams, her career, her happiness. A simple request became proof that you were selfish. Eventually, you stopped asking. You learned that wanting anything for yourself made you a bad child. But here's the truth she never told you. Real sacrifice doesn't come with an invoice. Love given freely is not a debt your child spends a lifetime repaying. The second sign is concern that became control. She wasn't controlling, she was just worried. She wasn't invading your boundaries, she just cared too much. Every step toward independence was treated like danger. At first, it felt like protection. But slowly, care became surveillance. The cage was so beautifully decorated you called it love. And by the time you couldn't breathe, you'd already convinced yourself the prison was keeping you safe. The third sign is the silence. Not peaceful silence, punishing silence. When you disappointed her, she didn't yell. She withdrew, became cold, distant. And as a child, that silence felt unbearable because children depend on emotional connection to survive. So your brain made a simple calculation: keep her happy or lose her love. From that moment, you became hyper-aware of everyone's emotions. You apologized before anyone complained. You over-explained everything. You became terrified of conflict. Because a child who survives guilt learns that other people's comfort matters more than their own. That's not discipline. That's emotional hostage-taking. The fourth sign is when you became her emotional caretaker. You weren't just her child. You became her therapist, her support system. Whenever she was sad, you believed you had failed her. No child should ever feel responsible for keeping a parent emotionally alive. That burden was never yours to carry. The fifth sign is conditional love. Affection was warm when you obeyed, distant when you disagreed. Without anyone saying it directly, you learned a painful lesson. Love is something you earn, not something you deserve. And as an adult, that lesson followed you everywhere. You work harder than everyone else. You give more than you receive. Deep down, you're still trying to earn something every child should have received freely. Over time, guilt stopped being something you felt. It became who you were. Rest felt selfish. Boundaries felt cruel. Taking care of yourself felt like betrayal. And here's what makes this so dangerous. Your mother didn't have to be cruel. She only had to teach you that disappointing her was the same as betraying her. Once that belief took root, she no longer needed to control you. The guilt had already become your inner voice. You started policing yourself for her, long after the conversations ended, long after childhood ended, even long after you left home. But awareness changes everything. The moment you recognize guilt for what it really is, it begins to lose its power. Healing doesn't mean hating your mother. It doesn't mean proving every painful memory was intentional. Healing begins the moment you stop confusing guilt with love. The guilt you've been carrying was never yours, and the moment you put it down is the moment you start taking your life back.